It's my guess that if you're watching this video, you've probably just been told by your doctor that you have type 1 diabetes mellitus.
And I bet you're probably feeling nervous, confused, maybe even upset right about now. How did I know? Well, I remember when I first got diagnosed with diabetes. I was sitting in my doctor's office when he said,
I think we've figured out why you're not feeling so well. You have type 1 diabetes. When you have diabetes, that means that your pancreas isn't working right. You're going to be having to take insulin, you'll be on a meal plan.
Did that scene look familiar? Well, if it did, then you have the same reaction that both of us did. And hey, it's a normal reaction to have. I mean, it's okay to be upset and worried about having diabetes.
I thought that it was something that goes away. I was like, it'll go away in a couple months, and my dad's like, nah, you got it for life, son. So I was like, all right.
I was overwhelmed and kind of a little bit fascinated. It sounds kind of weird, but I'm like, wow, this is, this big thing that I have to deal with. And so, like, I was, it was overwhelming. But after a while, the fascination goes away, and it's just part of your life.
Well, at first I didn't know what it was, but when I found out, I was kind of scared, and then I kind of grew into it.
Shocked. Yeah, a little scared too.
I was scared and upset.
It'll probably take you a little while to get used to the idea, but you're going to get a lot of help.
and that's why we're here, to get you started on the road to learning what diabetes is and how to take care of it. The most important thing to know is that if you take care of your diabetes, you can expect to live a long, healthy, and active life.
In fact, there are a lot of famous athletes, movie stars, and even a Miss America with diabetes. So you see, diabetes doesn't have to slow you down at all. Now, you may have heard all kinds of weird things about diabetes, but we're here to set you straight.
First of all, many kids think that it's their fault that they got sick. Actually, nothing could be farther from the truth. Even if you ate lots of sugar and sweets, it didn't make any difference.
So if it wasn't from eating too much sugar, then what caused your diabetes? Well, you might have inherited something that put you at risk, but that's not the whole story. Something happened that triggered your diabetes. Scientists think that it might even have been a virus.
They still have a lot to learn about the causes of diabetes. But one thing we know for sure is that you did not do anything wrong. And you know what? You're certainly not alone. 1 in every 500 kids has diabetes. Think of it as 1 per school.
Okay, maybe we don't know what causes it, but we do know what happens when you have diabetes. In order to explain it, let's take a look at how your pancreas is supposed to work. In case you don't know what a pancreas is, it's an organ right behind your stomach that produces insulin. But if you have diabetes, your pancreas is not producing insulin. Why? Because for some reason, your immune system sees the insulin-producing cells in your pancreas as if they were foreign invaders and destroys them.
Now let's take a look at why insulin is so important. See, when you eat, the food enters your stomach and digestive tract and is broken down into sugar. Then it gets absorbed into your bloodstream. This sugar is then carried in your blood to all the cells in your body, where it is used as fuel for energy. Insulin works like a key to unlock the cells so that the sugar can get inside. Now suppose the insulin-producing cells were destroyed, as in type 1 diabetes. There would be no keys, and sugar wouldn't be able to get into the cells and would build up in your blood.
High blood sugar causes increased urination and sometimes even bedwetting. Now maybe that's happened to you and you felt a little weird about it. But don't! It's just your body's way of getting rid of extra sugar. Increased urination can also make you feel really thirsty. So what happens to cells if they can't get the fuel they need from sugar? Well, they use other sources of fuel, like fat, that don't work quite as well. Now, when your cells use fat for fuel, substances called ketones are produced. They can give your breath a fruity smell and can cause a stomachache and nausea.
Often, kids think that diabetes will take total control of their lives. But your life is not out of control, even though it might feel that way right now. The truth is that you have the ability to take charge of your health much more than people with other medical conditions. And we're going to teach you just how to do that. The game plan is to find the right balance between insulin, food, and exercise. We'll talk about that in just a minute.
Now here's another thing you should know about. There are two different types of diabetes. Most kids get type 1, or what we used to call juvenile onset diabetes. In this form of diabetes, the pancreas produces little or no insulin. People with type 2, or adult onset diabetes, don't have as much of a problem producing insulin, but their bodies can't use the insulin normally to allow sugar to enter their cells. In other words, they have plenty of keys, but those keys don't work. But like I said, this is different from most kids' diabetes. Often, adults can treat their diabetes by taking pills or just by losing weight.
I'm sure that right about now you're thinking, hey, that's the kind of diabetes I'd rather have. And many people think that type 1 diabetes in a child will turn into type 2 diabetes when they become an adult. But unfortunately, this doesn't happen. So the plan is to keep your diabetes in control, using a balance of insulin, diet, and exercise, at least until they find a cure. Whoa, go back! What's that about a cure? Well, unfortunately, right now there is no way to replace your insulin-producing cells that are already damaged, but scientists are working towards developing better treatments. Your job is to keep your sugars in balance so you'll stay healthy until there are easier ways of treating and possibly even someday curing your diabetes.
So how do you do that? Well, the best way is to learn all you can about your diabetes. And like I said before, that's why we're here. And it's also the reason that you have your own personal diabetes care team, which may include a doctor, diabetes nurse educator, dietitian, and social worker. Now let's talk about just how to keep your diabetes in balance. The secret to success in controlling your diabetes is finding just the right balance between insulin dose, food, and exercise. Fingerstick measurement of your blood sugar will show you how well you're doing. I remember when they first told me that I'd have to take insulin shots. I said, "Excuse me, are you talking to me? 'Cause I hate to tell you this, but I think you've got the wrong guy." But then I got my first dose. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. I'm not kidding. The needles are really small. I look at it this way. It's certainly a lot better than running between the water fountain and the bathroom all day, right? One thing to remember is to inject into different places. You can use your arms, your legs, your butt, or even your belly. Most kids need insulin at breakfast and dinner, and sometimes you might need extra insulin before lunch or your bedtime snack.
You might be mixing long-acting insulins, which are cloudy, and short-acting insulins, which are clear. And in case you're wondering, like I did, why you can't just take insulin by mouth, it's because you would digest it and it wouldn't work. But hey, if you don't believe me that insulin shots aren't that bad, listen to what some of these kids have to say.
I thought the needles were going to be a lot bigger and thicker, but they're real short and thin, so it doesn't hurt.
The shots I'm used to. That's the good thing. Like, it doesn't hurt.
I was thinking to myself, I have to learn how to do this because mommy can't be around for the rest of my life. So after that, I was like, this is it. It really doesn't hurt. So I got used to it.
Diabetes shots are a lot different than, getting blood taken, getting doctor shots. They're a lot less painful, and you learn to deal with them. It's not so bad.
It's not as bad as you think it is.
Now let's talk about your meal plan. When you have diabetes, you need to pay much closer attention to what you eat and when you eat it. See, a person without diabetes produces insulin, but only when they eat. But since people with diabetes take injections, they have insulin in their system at all times. That means you need to have 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks at pretty much the same time each day to make sure that there is always some food in your system to balance out the insulin you're taking. You should also limit high sugar foods so that your blood sugar doesn't get too high. But that doesn't mean you'll never have sweets again. You can still have a treat on special occasions just like everyone else. Your dietitian will help you learn about your meal plan and healthy food choices.
Did you know that exercise will lower your blood sugar level? That's right, so it's a very important part of your treatment plan for staying in balance. But remember, since exercise lowers your blood sugar, you might need an extra snack before doing any increased activity. So how will you know how well you're staying in balance? Well, although you might be able to feel when your sugar is either very low or very high, fingerstick blood testing is the only way to know exactly how you're doing. That's why it's so important.
You'll use a small drop of blood from your finger and a blood glucose meter to test your blood sugar. It's best to test at least 4 times a day, before each meal and your bedtime snack, as well as if you're not feeling well. If you didn't have diabetes, your blood sugar would usually be between 70 and 120. Your diabetes care team will help you set your blood sugar goals, which may vary based on your age or other factors. And if your sugars bounce around a little in the beginning, don't worry, that's normal. They will become more stable as time goes on. Entering your blood sugar results in your personal logbook will give you and your team the most accurate picture of the combination of insulin, diet, and exercise that's right for you.
In the old days, people had to test their urine several times a day. Pretty gross, right? I mean, let's hear it for progress. Now you only have to test your urine for ketones if you're sick or if your blood sugar is very high. Now let's talk about a couple of things that you need to watch out for. The first is called a hypoglycemic or low blood sugar reaction. When you don't have enough to eat, are late for a meal or snack, or you were more active than usual, your blood sugar can get too low. Signs of low blood sugar are sweatiness, headache, hunger, or even stomachache. In younger children, signs can include sleepiness or irritability.
Like my legs feel weak, I get a headache, like I can't concentrate too much and like I can't walk too good.
Well, I get really hungry and shaky, and there's just this feeling I can't explain that happens in my tummy.
Dizzy, disoriented, and I get nasty. I'm mean to people, and everybody's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh, my sugar's kind of low," and because I'm not generally a mean person, but when my sugar's low, I get pretty nasty.
It's easy to treat a low blood sugar reaction. Just have a small glass of juice and a snack if it's going to be a while before your next meal. Always remember to carry some form of sugar with you at all times.
Sometimes when you first get diabetes, your vision can get a bit blurry. That's because your blood sugar was so high. Don't worry, this will improve over the next few weeks as your sugars get more in balance. Now, just a couple of other things to remember when you go home. As soon as you return to school, you'll need to make sure that your school nurse, teachers, coach, and bus driver know about your diabetes. You may need to keep supplies at school, and you also want them to know what to do if your blood sugar gets too low or too high. Your diabetes team will be glad to work with them. It's also really important that you wear some sort of medical identification, like a necklace or bracelet, so that if you're not feeling well, people will know that you have diabetes.
You will be returning for your first follow-up visit with your diabetes team soon after your diagnosis, and then on a regular basis at 3-month intervals. Remember that you can always call any member of your team if you have questions.
Diabetes can be a big lifestyle change, but this can be made easier by support groups and other activities that you and your parents can attend. There are even diabetes summer camps. Sometimes it's helpful to talk to other people that have had diabetes longer than you. They'll probably understand exactly what you're feeling and might even give you helpful hints that they've learned along the way. I'm sure your doctor, nurse educator, or social worker will be glad to introduce you to other kids.
There are all kinds of educational materials about diabetes too. There are books, websites, and even videos. Hey, like this one! Your team can help you find the very best ones.
So I guess that's about it for now. We know that newly diagnosed diabetes can feel overwhelming.
But just remember, you are not alone. You have the help of your diabetes care team every step of the way.
And once you find the right balance of insulin, diet, and exercise, you'll discover that controlling your diabetes will become a habit, just like brushing your teeth.
You'll be able to do everything that other kids do, feel good, and be healthy.
It's all just a matter of staying in balance.
Take a deep breath, take each day as it comes, hop over, take each obstacle as it is. If your sugar's low, well, treat that. Don't worry about, what your dinner sugar is going to be if it's breakfast time. Just take everything as it comes and take it in strides, and you'll be fine.
It's like I feel more like active and stuff than before, and I just feel like more outgoing and not as tired as I used to be and everything.
It takes time, but you get used to doing the shots and all the other things that come with it.
It's very easy if you just do what you have to do, and you don't even have to worry about it sometimes. If you just take your shot, do your blood test, and if you're a little low, just treat yourself until you're back in range. You'll be A-okay. That's all it is to it.